if you look at my
Yeah.
top 10, there may be only two straight out horror movies, possibly three. One Cut of the Dead is a comedy. If you watch that, there's not even really zombies. It's actually a comedy about filmmaking. Um,
Okay.
Midsummer's a horror. Us is obviously a
Yeah.
horror.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what else is on there.
First one
Um,
was Joker.
yeah, Joker.
The-
Well,
Those
there's
are
an
the only
argument that
three I think I saw on that list.
There's an argument in the genre community that Joker could be considered a horror. Um, now, my definition of horror is coming from a film geek perspective. The total horror nuts, they have a lot more refined idea of what should be under the moniker. Um, I'm my moniker of horror. So some people believe Silence of the Lambs is not a horror film. I think that's a horror film. Um, so
What would it otherwise be classified as, like a thriller?
thriller,
Right.
there's a lot of films that there's a lot of people said Hereditary wasn't a horror film, and to me that's straight up horror. So I don't really
Yeah,
get,
yeah, I would say horror.
but
But what were other people saying? Like a psychological thriller? I feel like that's kind of borderline.
some of these people, if it doesn't have jump scares in it, it's not a horror. They're just freaking mindless idiots. Um, um, but the House of Jack built, it's about a serial killer, but it's an art film. Um, you know,
Hmm.
it, I guess on a very loose side of things, you could say it's horror. If anything, with a serial killer's horror, it does have some horrific scenes, but it's not
Hmm.
necessarily a horror. Dragged Across the Concrete is neo noir crime thriller. Under the Silver Lake is neo noir. Um, Climax, I guess Climax, because it's dark, people
No,
might say it's
I never
horror, but
really thought about what defines something as like what is horror as a definition, like in terms of what is that? Because I tend to just in my mind like, oh yeah, serial killer must be horror, but not really. Like
yeah,
I
it's
guess
Dexter
that would be
horror.
kind of like no, yeah, no, no. I mean, it's definitely way more sympathetic towards the killer, which takes it out of the horror genre for me. If it was just about just a maniac killing, then okay, I guess, yeah. But yeah, no, not really. I wouldn't consider it horror.
But I have a very broad range of things that can. It to me, horror is how it makes you feel. So there's some things that a lot of people wouldn't consider horror, but they're very dark and they can have terrifying scenes. Um, but at the same time, I don't. It's horror is so hard to pinpoint. I mean, Alien, is that sci-fi or horror?
Can it be
Sci-fi geeks.
sci-fi horror?
Yeah, the sci-fi geeks are gonna say it's sci-fi. Horror geeks are gonna say it's horror. It's obviously one of the most important horror films ever made.
I mean,
Um,
at some point, they decided to just combine genres, and they just like it's just a whole list underneath some of these movies: a sci-fi horror, thriller. It's like, oh, it's one of those sci-fi horror thrillers. It just doesn't even matter anymore. You just have like everything.
one of the most psychologically disturbing films I've ever seen is called a movie called I Stand Alone, which is probably a top 20 film for me.
Hmm.
There is a little bit of violence, but the violence is at the very end of the film, and it's more of a family violent incest type thing. Um,
Okay, okay. If it's
but
good, then I like
it's
I am with spoilers.
oh no, no, but it's such a depressing film that it almost makes you feel like it's a horror film, and most of the film is done with inner monologue. So it's if you watch that film, you're not going to think it's horror, but it's going to make you feel like a horror film.
Hmm.
So
I
it's
guess it's standalone from 1998.
yeah, it's the director Gaspar Noé is he's amazing. He's a Argentinian French filmmaker.